Minneapolis isn't in chaos. It's an orchestrated Marxist insurgency, and they want you in the streets fighting back. That's the trap. While we fight the chaos on their terms, the real American revolution is happening in our factories and towns across the nation. The radicals have abandoned the working class. President Trump knows this, and that's why he keeps winning. In this video, I'll show you how we can counter this Marxist insurgency, why our greatest weapon is the American system, and how in 1 year President Trump has consolidated a major revolution. I'm Mike Steger, and I've been fighting to revive the principles of the American Revolution since 2002. If you like this content and want to support it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our new Promethean Overviews channel. The chaos in Minneapolis is an orchestrated insurgency. As retired Green Beret Eric Schwalm has documented, what's unfolding in Minneapolis right now isn't protest. It's low-level insurgency infrastructure built by people who've clearly studied the playbook. This isn't spontaneous outrage. This is C2, command and control with redundancy, OPSEC, Operation Security Hygiene, and task organization that would make a Special Forces team sergeant nod in recognition. This is like the color revolution in Ukraine in 2014, except this time it's not the deep state department's Victoria Nuland handing out cookies, it's Tim Walz's National Guard. And like in the Maidan in Kiev, the radicals in Minneapolis aren't fighting the system, they are the foot soldiers for a globalist coup, while the people funding the insurgents seek martyrs to advance their cause. The first color revolution in the U.S. was the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, posing as an anti-war operation. But even in 1999, this radical left still maintained an opposition to globalization, like the 1999 protests in Seattle against the World Trade Organization. Today, that radical left has abandoned the working class, and that's where they're most vulnerable. They don't care about American wages, workers, or national success. They are the shock troops for the multinational corporations they once opposed. And since 1999, America has lost 5 million jobs and 70,000 factories to globalization. We gutted our cities, we wrecked our towns, and lowered life expectancy. The ICE operation on immigration is not fascism. Globalization is fascism. It literally plunged Americans into open-air camps in their own towns and cities, where mass amounts of people died from despair, from drugs, from alcohol, from suicide and violence. That was globalization. And just like Karl Marx was sponsored by friends of British Prime Minister Lord Palmerston, these radicals are useful idiots for an empire they claim to fight. Look, if you want to help fight back against the radical left and the globalists who are funding them, join Promethean Action's email list and subscribe to this channel. The link is in the description below. Don't just watch the revolution. Okay, so while Marxists burn, we build. While they scream in the streets, we pour concrete and forge steel. Under Trump, we're not just rebuilding America. We're creating a global alliance of builders. Listen to Howard Lutnick open his panel at Davos last week.
Well, I think you should start at a much higher level. Okay? We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America.
He said it. Globalization is essentially dead. This is not some optics game. President Trump and his entire team are ending globalization. They are ending the rule by multinational corporations. And they really don't care what the globalists and the corporatists have to say. Listen to U.S. Trade Rep Jamieson Greer read the riot act to the globalist mouthpiece, The Economist.
Well, were they heartbroken when they were dumping all kinds of goods at the American market and putting our guys out of business? Were they heartbroken when our factories were leaving the Midwest and setting up shop in Vietnam or Mexico? Were they heartbroken when we had all this fentanyl coming in, killing Americans? Were they heartbroken then? Were they heartbroken then? I don't think they were.
Greer then gave one of the most important speeches at Davos ever. Speaking at the USA House, he basically declared a new American revolution. He said, on another cold day, December 5th, 1791, America's first Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton, delivered his report on manufactures to Congress. In that report, Hamilton articulated a plan for the United States to shake off its economic dependency on the British Empire. Alexander Hamilton knew on day one with the new U.S. Constitution, we had to build an industrial powerhouse inside the United States. Greer goes on. By the time of the Civil War, American per capita industrial output increased 525% from 1750 to 1860. The American miracle was already underway even prior to the Revolution. That's why we fought, and we consolidated not just political liberty, but the right for economic growth and development. But Greer goes on, and in a way, he exposes the entire radical left operation underway in Minneapolis. Listen to what he says. But American ingenuity and productivity was held back by Southern slavery. Southern millionaires had no interest in supporting American industry or any idea of a broader American project. The South at that time preferred a colonial model for its own economy, playing the role of a commodity producer for European empires. The plantation owners were globalists. They wanted nothing to do with the American project or American industry. And this is what the radical left are defending today, a system of slavery, cheap labor, and the free trade of the Confederacy. Greer goes on. According to one study, total American industrial production soared by 1,030% from 1860 to 1910. Through it all, America pursued the industrial strategy that Alexander Hamilton had laid out more than 200 years ago. That's American leadership. This is the revolution President Trump has unleashed. It's a historical fact that when the globalist system is applied, poverty and war increases. It happens every single time. And it's also true that when the American system is applied, wealth and prosperity of the population thrives. The radicals in Minneapolis are literally waging war against this revival of the American system because maybe not them, but their donors know this is our greatest weapon. And it's not just talk. The new global American system is already taking shape, and the globalists are freaked. Let's go back a year. In November of 2024, President Trump's former economic advisor, Stephen Myron, wrote a paper called A User's Guide for Restructuring the Global Trading System. In this, he calls for a new global economic system called the Mar-a-Lago Accord, based on American industry and real growth. In it, he begins by saying, "We may be on the cusp of generational change in the international trade and financial systems." Now, after just 1 year, the British-founded think tank, the Council on Foreign Relations, are worried about the success of President Trump and this new international system. In an article published this week on their website, the author Rebecca Patterson says, the so-called Mar-a-Lago Accord is becoming a reality. And it is. Trade advisor Peter Navarro just published a report on how tariffs are more than doubling U.S. production of aluminum, creating 1,000 new jobs. He says in his Substack, powered by the most advanced aluminum smelting technology ever installed in the United States, the Oklahoma facility will produce roughly 750,000 tons of primary aluminum per year, more than doubling current U.S. production. It will create about 1,000 permanent, high-wage manufacturing jobs and support another 4,000 construction jobs. It will anchor a new aluminum-focused industrial hub in the American heartland, strengthening supply chains essential to both economic and national security. This is happening all over the country. Major investments in aerospace, auto, rare earths, energy, semiconductors, strategic metals, and much more. This American revolution that President Trump is waging is rebuilding the American system, at home and abroad. And the people who benefit are working-class Americans, especially young Americans, who will never have to accept the globalist mantra of zero growth, forever wars, or mass inflation. J.D. Vance spoke at the March of Life for the weekend, and this is what he said.
Let me just say, my friends, that we have to be clear. We cannot be neutral. Our country cannot be indifferent about whether its next generations live or die. Because, think about it, what ultimately gives meaning and life to the United States of America, this is not a new question. Every civilization has been forced to answer it. You march today, we march today, because you have an answer to this question about what kind of civilization we are and about what kind of civilization we're going to become in the future.
That's it. What kind of civilization are we going to build? That's the MAGA project. This is what European-style globalists and the radicals want to destroy. Then, today, and always. They offer chaos, death, and despair. We offer the chance to build the greatest civilization ever created. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like this video, and let's start building.